Our poem for today is Pied Beauty by Gerard Manley Hopkins. Glory be to God for dappled things, for skies of couple color as a brinded cow, for rose moles all in stipple upon trout that swim, fresh fire coal chestnuts fails, finches wings, landscape plotted and pieced, fold, fallow, and plow, and all trades their gear and tackle and trim. All things counter, original, spare, strange. Whatever is fickle, freckled, who knows how? With swift, slow, sweet, sour, a dazzle dim, he fathers forth whose beauty is past change. Praise him. Gerard Manley Hopkins was an English priest and poet who lived in the last part of the 19th century. Hopkins kept his poetry largely private during his lifetime and only attained fame as a poet many years after his death. His poetic style seems much more in line with the modernist poets who wrote in the 1920s. He created a whole new meter for his poems, rejecting the traditional iambic pentameter line for a style he called sprung rhythm. You can see how in this poem, Hopkins uses lots of internal rhyme and alliteration, as well as an unusual rhyme scheme at the end of the lines. Like many of Hopkins' poems, this is a poem praising God for his creative power, particularly the beauty that exists in nature. In this poem, he focuses on some of the unusual pictures we see in the natural world. The word in the title of the poem, pied, refers to animals that have more than one color on their skins. You might think of the Disney Dalmatians as one example of what Hopkins is talking about. In some ways, the poem is simply a list of the various examples from nature of animals or objects that include couple colors, as Hopkins calls them. He gives the example of a cow, but also sees these colors reflected in the skies. He notices the trout with rose moles all in stipple. Stipple, by the way, is actually a painting technique in which the artist uses the brush to complete a series of spots or specks on the canvas. This is a cool image because Hopkins seems to be picturing God as a painter who uses his brush to create these multicolored fish. But Hopkins not only sees these colors in animals, but in natural objects like the chestnuts and in the landscape. When he talks about the landscape plotted and pieced, I think of flying in an airplane and looking down at the fields of farms where the different plots of fields can be clearly identified by their different colors. In the second stanza, Hopkins tells us a bit more about why he values these elements in nature. He names them as counter, original, spare, and strange. I take Hopkins to be saying that if all the animals in the world were the same color, it would be a pretty boring world. So he is grateful that God has chosen to create a varied nature. It is these unusual and strange colors that catch our eye and cause us to appreciate God's skill as a creator even more. While Hopkins is focusing on the animal and natural world, I suppose his theme could also be expanded to include humans. How boring would it be if we all looked alike? But God has created each of us with unique traits. We have different skin and hair and eyes. Some of us are even freckled. In the second line of the last stanza, we catch a glimpse of the poet's wonder and awe when he comes to God's creative power. As he ponders elements of nature that are freckled, he expresses his amazement with the parenthetical exclamation, "Who knows how?" This is not only an abrupt shift in the poetic line, but a way to bring the reader into the poem. To paraphrase, it's like the poet is saying, I don't have a clue how God does this stuff. Do you? I think that it is this personal touch in Hopkins' poetry that makes it unique. We can sense the poet's excitement as he contemplates God's creative power. And no doubt, this is what Hopkins hoped to achieve, to invite us as readers to consider the beauty of God's creation and join him in praising God. Let's read the poem together one more time. Glory be to God for dappled things, for skies of couple color as a brinded cow, for rose moles all in stipple upon trout that swim, fresh, fire-cold chestnut falls, finches' wings. Landscapes plotted and pieced, fold, fallow, and plow, and all trades their gear and tackle and trim. All things counter, original, spare, strange. Whatever is fickle, freckled, who knows how? With swift, slow, sweet, sour, adazzle, dim, he fathers forth whose beauty is past change. Praise him.